Welcome to the Pit Village podcast. Thank you for joining us. Now, today I want to talk about getting back to work. So, I've had a bit of a crisis over the last couple of months. I mentioned it on the last episode. We've been talking about mental health, and I felt a little bit unemployed, even though I run a business. Sort of took some time off forcefully because of a mental health crisis, essentially, and a little bit of a identity crisis, which we spoke about over the last couple of episodes. But continuing on this mental health week, and getting back to work really, because I need to get back to work. I need to get back to nourishing the business that I've actually formed. So I'm a website designer, Prospect 27. It does sponsor the Pit Village podcast. So we're here today, and like I say, I felt a little bit unemployed because I've took a step back from the business. I've been doing little bits and sort of managing things and doing some thinking really about it, and really questioning where I'm going long term. And it made me think about what people must feel like at the moment if they are unemployed and the uncertainty in the world. And we do need work really as a purpose and to give us something to strive towards. We're actually servicing other people, we're building skills. It's really important. It's hard to work for yourself and sort of build skills at the same time. So we need to go out and be able to get a job and become employable and build, relationships and in a professional manner and all that sort of stuff. With that, you learn so many skills within whichever job you want to get. If you want to run a business or do anything like that, I think you're much better equipped once you've seen a large organisation and a startup and worked in a team. There's just so much you can learn by actually getting a job, and again, it sort of forms that identity and you build those skills over time. But where am I going? It's mental health and unemployment, why both require action for our COVID-19 recovery. It's an article from the Health Foundation, and it speaks about the relationship between mental health and unemployment. It says it's bi-directional. Good mental health is a key influence on employability, finding a job and remaining in that job, but unemployment causes stress, which ultimately has long-term physiological health effects and can negatively affect people's mental health, including depression, anxiety, and lower self-esteem. Projections from the Office of Budget Responsibility show the UK employment rate reaching 6.5% by the end of 2021, which means an additional 0.9 million people unemployed compared with before COVID-19. So there's nearly a million people extra unemployed who are sat at home with no to do, feeling depressed. This indicates that there will be 800,000 people unemployed with poor mental health by the end of 2021. The rise in unemployment is not distributed evenly across society. While the unemployment rate was estimated at 5.1%, in January 2020, highest rates were among young people aged 18 to 24 at 14%. So 14% of people aged 18 to 24 don't have a job at the moment. People with lower qualifications, 7.8%, which is overall. If you've got lower qualifications, regardless of your age, you're less likely to have a job. And it says people in minority ethnic groups, 7.6%. In January 2021, 53% of unemployed people had poor mental health. 43% of unemployed people had poor mental health. This was greater than for people in employment, which is 27%, and for people who are on furlough, which is still 33%. So that's a lot of people, isn't it, overall, who actually feel like they've got a mental health issue or are suffering. Again, even if you furloughed, it's not 43% of people who are unemployed have poor mental health, and 34% of people who are on furlough have poor mental health. So let's look at that. I mean, furlough obviously causes some uncertainty, but the money's still there, isn't it, at the end of the day, I guess. But still, it shows that there's not much disparity there between the two, whether you are unemployed or whether you just furloughed. Workers with existing mental health conditions are also more likely to work in sectors that have had to close due to COVID-19, such as hospitality, making them vulnerable to job losses. This will potentially widen the gap in employment rates between those with and those without mental health conditions. So that's obviously going to further the mental health crisis that we're going to suffer over the next couple of years, that we're already suffering, I guess. Maintaining high employment. I mean, if even 30% of people with a job, 27% of people who are unemployed, who are employed and actually have a job, still suffer from mental health issues. 27% of people who are employed. So I mean, it's like 35% overall, isn't it? Or at least 34, 35% overall people who think that they're suffering from mental health issues. That's crazy. That's 3 out of 10 people. Nearly 4 out of 10 people. Whether you're employed or not. Maintaining high employment will be key to the UK's recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, but failing to tackle poor mental health will create a drag on future prosperity. So it's like they said at the beginning, it's a bi-directional. So good mental health is a key influence on your employability and finding a job and remaining in that job. But being unemployed actually causes stress, which ultimately has a long-term mental health, decline. So it's when you become unemployed, essentially you'll become more unemployable because you get more stressed out, and it's negative consequences for your mental health, and you start suffering from depression and loss of your identity and low self-esteem because you haven't got a job, and it just, you're not building on your skills. You go into employers, you're sort of begging for a chance, and I've been in that position, and it's horrible when your identity is stripped away from you and you've not got a job. Let's continue through this article. So the introduction. Unemployment has a detrimental impact on mental health, as does poor employment. This long road is concerned mainly with unemployment and mental health. Long read. Entering the pandemic, unemployment in the UK was an historic low, but has since begun to rise and is expected to rise further as a result of pandemic restrictions. What is the connection between mental health and unemployment? Unemployment, not having a job and actively seeking work, has consistently been found to have a negative impact on a range of health outcomes. There are several mechanics by which unemployment could harm health, through stress and reduced self-esteem arising from a loss of day-to-day structure of work and the stigma associated with unemployment. As a result of financial hardship, insecurity, and reduced future earning potential, leaving people with stress, which damages health. From the social security system itself, which can have a negative impact on mental health through the claims process, work capability testing, and job search conditions. You know what? If you search my name and put job centre, you'll find Carl Cowell Job Centre. You will find a 19-year-old blasting job centre because of the way in which they were trying to put me in a box and say, right, you need to go and do this little course, and I had my idea of where I wanted to go in my career, and they weren't actually helping me achieve that. They were just saying, mate, you need to go and do this IT course. I mean, I'm a website designer, for God's sake. I didn't need to do an IT course, even at that point. So yeah, it does, from a social security system itself, which can have a negative impact on mental health through the claims process, work capability testing, and job search conditions. So you're actually put in a box straight away by the job centre. They make you feel horrible because you've not got a job. You sat there and the judgmental straight away. It's an awful system. It doesn't help anybody. The health consequences of unemployment have been shown to increase with duration for mental health and life satisfaction, as well for physical health. Pandemic restrictions have led to an extended period of reduced income, job loss, or unemployment, and the long duration of these circumstances is a particular cause for concern. Policy makers interested in unemployment, particularly for young people, partly stems from the long-term scarring effect that a period of unemployment can have on future earnings potential. However, research also suggests that there are long-term mental health scarring effects of youth unemployment and multiple spells of unemployment during the life course. Well, of course there is, because if you're always switching and changing, and I've actually had to deal with this in interviews when they ask you, well, why did you leave this? Why did you leave that? I mean, I've had about 30 jobs in my life. Going from a warehouse to an admin job to a sales job to another sales job. It's just been all over the place. Obviously you don't put that on your CV. You put, I've worked here, I've worked there, I've worked here, and you try and craft a story for yourself. And that's what life is about, really, isn't it? Just crafting a story about yourself that sort of makes sense. And that's what we're all trying to do. And that's certainly what you got to do in an interview. The impact of rising unemployment on mental health. Forthcoming research by Thompson, Kat Igiridi et al., which means and more, explores the impact of job loss, income change, and different economic and welfare policies on mental health. Using provisional estimates, it is possible to provide an indication on the impact of mental health of the predicted rise in unemployment by the coming winter. By the final quarter of 2021, the unemployment rate will reach 6.5%, equivalent to additional 940,000 unemployed people in the UK compared to the last quarter of 2019. Based on the age profile of unemployment, we would estimate this will result in an extra 200,000 people with poor mental health over the same period. So there's going to be an extra 200,000 people with poor mental health because they're out of work due to the pandemic. Our estimate of the increase in poor mental health accounts for people moving from employment into unemployment and people remaining unemployed over this period. The same research highlights that, on average, moving into employment from unemployment helps reduce poor mental health, emphasising the need for policies that create jobs and help people find jobs. Right, unemployment and mental health during the pandemic. Rise in unemployment, the risk of unemployment. The unemployment rate. Higher for young people. We've been through all this, haven't we? I don't need to go through all the article. The conclusion. Here we are. Key element of the UK's recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic will be maintaining high employment levels. How does a job actually increase your mental health? Well, I've got some thoughts on what you can do at the moment if you are unemployed. I mean, it's not easy finding a job, but there's some things that you can, subscribe to if you wish, that's going to make it easier for you in the long term. So first and foremost, you need to stay away from ideologies and the news and the cycle of everyday content that's, it's just perpetual content that you consume on a daily basis from the same channels. You need to step away from that, particularly the news, which is going to paint a narrative of the world for you, and you're going to subscribe to that perception of the world that, it's so hard and there's something out there, it's going to kill you, you need to stay in your house, be fearful, and the unemployment rate, and it's all bad. It's not all bad. There's opportunity out there. You just need to be mindful that, it's not all think and grow rich and it's going to be easy and you just think it and it happens and whoop-de-doo. No, you've got to put the work in, you've got to apply for the jobs and accept the rejection and, move forward in your career. So stay away from the news and the news cycle and what they wish to tell you, because that's not reality, is it? What is reality? It's how you spend your time every single day, your little life and the moment that you've got, and that is it. Focus on skills, building new skills. Now, there's loads of places that you can learn skills, and nobody actually sponsors this podcast to say go to this place, and so I'm not gonna tell you where to go, but there's places online, wherever you go, YouTube, Coursera, Udemy, whatever it may be. There's places online that you can go to learn new skills, get the fundamentals. You can download Photoshop or Adobe Studio and start to learn yourself video editing, photo editing, whatever it may be, to allow yourself to be a content creator in the future and, learn yourself some skills that may help you find a new career and express your creativity. Start writing blogs, open your own blog, start writing them on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm not telling you what you should do. Maybe don't even put yourself out there. Just start writing or start journaling. That's always a good thing, to write about how you feel and what you're doing. Just keep it to yourself. Always great for sort of self-exploration. And don't put too much pressure on yourself. I mentioned it last episode about the self-help gurus, and fair enough, you need work, but it's going to be a long-term process, and most people who are rich, it's created over the long term, and you're going to make mistakes, but always focus on the skills that you're building over time. Next will be, how can you benefit the other people around you? If you are unemployed, you can't be sat there miserable. That's what I did basically for a year. I thought the world war against me. I was sat there miserable, 19-year-old, my life ahead of me, but I didn't realise it because I didn't see the opportunity. Just get yourself on Indeed, and if you can travel into a city like Leeds, like Doncaster, or Wakefield, wherever you can go, a little city, town, village, whatever it may be, and get yourself a job. That's great. You don't have to actually stay in your local area. I were always put off, it's a local warehouse, it's just a shop, it's just this. It's not just anything anyway, because that experience is going to serve you well. It's going to give you some money, put you in the workforce. So definitely take small opportunities if you can. But if you are wanting to get yourself out there, just search Indeed for a city centre jobs or remote jobs nowadays. It's not impossible to get yourself a job. Obviously, 6% unemployment rate. That means 94 people out of 100 are still employed. That's not a bad statistic. You know, we're in a pretty stable society if you compare it historically and all that. Particularly to say we're in a pandemic, they've got all these financial instruments that they can use, where they're printing money and they're flooding the economy, which may have some long-term impact and may not be sustainable forever, but it's still keeping us going at the moment. And we need to just be thankful that we've got a society that's so complex, that is so, well established, that these laws and everything is in place to actually protect you as a consumer, as an employee, as whatever it may be. We're protected in so many ways, and it's just unbelievable when you consider a historical human being. We've got such a great life, really. You can set up a business from your house and start earning yourself a couple of £1,000 a month and step back from it and create yourself a podcast and just maintain it if you want to do that. And I know that you can do it because I've just done it in the last 15 months. And I'm not trying to brag, I'm trying to get rid of my ego, actually. But, it is what it is. That's what you can do if you like to do it. Find a creative venture and stop being so hard on yourself. There's no need to be hard on yourself if you've not got a job. Find yourself something creative to do in your spare time. Again, maybe focusing on the skills. How can you express your creativity whilst also building yourself some skills, whether it's creating videos, whatever it may be, because this is what the future is. I listened to an interview yesterday and they were talking about Mr. Beast. He's a YouTube channel, and basically he's going to be creators as an IPO, essentially as a business, and people are going to buy percentages of his business as a stock, and he'll be the first guy who's got a brand that goes public. Basically, that's how I interpreted this conversation. That when you look at it on a large scale, the biggest brands in the next 20 years are going to all be built online, and why can you not be part of that? You can, particularly if you're young, or I suppose it doesn't matter what age you are. I'd maybe love to be 40 this year old and have the understanding of, the next 12 years within me already, but that doesn't matter. I'm still young, and I've, again, still got those next 12 years to continue to learn, and that's what it's all about. Maybe you need to find yourself a creative venture and take a year out. Don't worry about getting a job. Who cares? Like I said, from 18 to 20-year-old, I bet myself up because I didn't have a job. But actually, looking back, it didn't matter. I've had a good career. I've had some good opportunities. I built myself a little business. I'm 28 now. Would it matter if I were 29? Would it matter if I were 26? It actually doesn't, no. If I'd have got that 2-year head start, would that have mattered? Well, no, not really, because, I'm going to die one day. If I die at 72 or 70, does it matter? No, people, we have varied lives. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to do something if you're young. That world's gone. It's not as simple as it was before, and it's not as easy as it was to just, go out at 18 and get a job and get an house and get everything mortgaged up and be able to sustain that. That's an outdated principle in life. Don't ever go out and get a mortgage on an house. It's the worst thing you could ever do. Tie yourself down to a building that is probably overvalued at the moment because we're in a little bit of a, everything's inflated, and even if not, it's just a bad move. Mortgage is not a great thing to set you up for life. Don't let the bank sell you on something that actually benefits them. So take a year out and really think about what you want out of life and discover yourself and who you are, and just maybe get educated. It doesn't matter in what, just what you are interested in that's going to compel you to move forward. It might be podcasting. If you're listening to this today, it may well be podcasting, because who am I at the end of the day? I'm nobody. And if you're listening to me, clearly you're interested in podcasts, so why don't you try that out? Start your business is what I put at the end of this. I've just got a little list. Stay away from the news, focus on skills. How can you benefit the other people around you? Stop being hard on yourself, find a creative venture, take a year out, but ultimately maybe start a business. Again, if you are listening to this and you're not in business and you are unemployed, what have you got to lose? Nothing really. Just start selling something, your own skills. Start a social media marketing company. if indeed you are interested in that and interested in being in this space, focus on the skills at first, and maybe go out there, put yourself out there on social media and say, hey, I can create you a website. I'll do it for free. Or I can create you a video. I can create you a Photoshop image. I can create you a logo. But I'll do it for free. Just for the exposure, for the new connection. You might get 10 people come to you. And that's exactly how I got started in business. I tell people I do the website for them for free. I did 10 websites for free. That built my portfolio. I went out there, started phoning people up. Hiya, mate. Do you want a website? It's going to cost you £400. Ultimately, that model didn't last, and I went to a pay monthly model. But that took me 3 years to evolve that idea and restart the business multiple times and get myself right with it. It's not something that happens overnight, but you could start today, and if I could go back in time, I'd probably start in business a lot sooner just because of the experience that it gives you. And it's not about self-development and all this, but if you've got a keen interest in entrepreneurship, actually you're going to be the one that solves this crisis, because it's not about solving the mental health issues, it's about solving the unemployment which is causing the mental health issues. So we need entrepreneurs that are going to grow businesses, that are going to employ people, that are going to stop people having mental health issues in the first place. And then we don't need to train a load of people up as mental health practitioners to look at the effect of this. Let's treat it at the cause. Let's treat it at the root. Let's not wait until there's 200,000 people who haven't got a job. Let's create businesses that bring in enough that allow you to give other people an opportunity and pay them a salary that keeps their family fed. And you be the entrepreneur that creates that business that employs those people. Because at the end of the day, somebody's got to do it. And this is all society is based on. You can look at the rich people and look at the, people who are successful and run businesses and look at them as your enemy. But at the end of the day, that's what they do in socialist, communist countries. That's not what they do in capitalism. What capitalism is a bunch of people coming together under a common cause, with a vision, with a company, going out to market with a product and saying, look, does everybody want this or not? And are you willing to accept it at this price point? Does it bring value to your life enough for you to give me money? And that's all that we do in society at the moment, and that keeps us stable because people form businesses and they employ people and they take the risk, and they don't only reap the reward, but they share that reward with other people by giving them an opportunity to come and work for them. It's not all about control and they've got this and that. We don't live in a feudalist system. Maybe we do. Maybe the banks do have control, and it's all a fraud, and all society is just the banks are lending governments money, trying to get everybody in debt, trying to make money off everybody, these big corporations. That is what it is to a certain extent, but that's not the whole truth. What you've seen over the last year is that actually no, society is a very complex thing, and what you can't kill is the human spirit. And people are opening businesses because I've seen it with my own eyes. I've worked with startups that have grown over the last year. I've had the opportunity to work with people who are starting their own businesses, and they come to me and they want the website doing. Obviously we offer a website with no setup fee, £30 a month, so it appeals to these people because they're just getting started in business. So I've met a lot of people who are striving at the moment to continue to succeed and build something for themselves, but it's not easy for any of them. And don't expect it to be easy. Don't expect getting a job to be easy. But life has never been easy for anybody. Mental health and unemployment, at the end of the day, yeah, we're going to need a lot of mental health practitioners to work with these people who have got mental health issues. But actually, if you go out there and you stay away from the news and you focus on skills and you think about how you can benefit other people around you, which again is what business is. You're just charging them money for it, but not in a bad way. Charging money for a product that actually gives people a benefit and can be utilised in society. That is what life is about. That is what has got us to this point and got us refrigerators and cars and sofas to sit on and all this stuff. And ultimately maybe it's made us a little bit too domesticated. So it is very easy to sit in self-pity and sorrow and all this sort of stuff. But really, life is very easy for us at the moment. And we've all had a great life. We've lived through the golden years of prosperity and, basically peace. We've lived in the life of peace and prosperity. People who are like 20, 30, 40 at the moment, There's been a couple of ups and downs, but basically no war that's been, nobody's attacking us, nobody's shelling us at the moment, which, as we all know, has been happening in Israel and Palestine over the weekend. I tell you to stay away from the news, but we see these things on social media when we're on there. It's not easy to stay away from, is it? When things are happening in the world. But ultimately, what you need to focus on is yourself, and maybe, getting a job and putting yourself out there, and not focus on yourself in a way that you're reading these self-development books and you're trying to aspire to be Napoleon Hill. And, these people, actually educate yourself in a field and build a specialism and do the things that they say that is practical. Just do the stuff. It's not rocket science, but it takes a long time, and we need to look at things over the long term. And that actually alleviates a lot of pressure from yourself, and then the mental health can sort of come from there. And I'm not speaking as somebody who is mentally well at all times. Obviously I've been through the periods of a crisis, and maybe still am in many ways, but actually life is about managing those crises and continuing to evolve. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention today. Unemployment and mental health, and what we've actually got coming, and how it is going to affect us long term. These people who are out of work, and the pandemic restrictions, and what we've actually allowed to happen over the last year. And a couple of ways we can fix that, mainly through entrepreneurship and continuing to build on the society that we have got, and not letting us heritage and the fundamentals actually be forgotten. So thanks a lot for your time. All the best. Have a great day. It's a Pit Village podcast, and I'm going to try and get to you a little bit more over the next week. I'm going back to Leeds, and I'm going to try and have a nice productive week, servicing customers and getting back to work. And take my own advice, I need to get back to work. I've had a bit of a spat and a bit of a physical issue, but seems to be manageable. I can at least get back to 5 to 6 hours per day and become more productive, and then maybe put some more time into the podcast and really think about where this is going long term. Thanks a lot for your time. I'd love to do some more interviews, and I have got some more coming up. I've got one pre-recorded that I'm going to get released ASAP. And if you are looking to be interviewed, you're a business owner, you know more about mental health, and you're a practitioner and are an expert in this field, just give me an email. interviews@pitvillagepodcast.co.uk. It's actually carl@prospect27.co.uk. It's Carl with a K. That gets to me much quicker. Thanks a lot for your time. All the best. Speak to you soon.